A lot of men are in that situation and they feel, oh, I don't talk about stuff when the other person doesn't have the means to change the situation. It's like someone gets hurt and then puts a bandage around it, and then at that moment you come and you say, oh, you're hurt. What happened to you? Deep cut, and then you say, oh, can I? And then you want him to take off the bandage so you can see the hurt or see the wound. Yeah, and that really hurts. Sometimes they want to let it heal and then they can talk about it. At that moment, they may not be able to talk about it because it amounts to you taking off the bandage and try to just so you could see the hurt, you could see the wound, the fresh wound. You get what I'm saying? Like, let me see, let me see, let me see. Sometimes you just need to chill, let it heal a bit, then you can see what happened, and then I can tell you about what happened. So that's the way I relate it. Some guys just want to be able to sort it out, and then they can talk about it. Because in talking about it, what does it sometimes they feel like sharing that part of them makes them vulnerable, and they don't want you to see that part of them. A lot of guys just don't like women seeing how vulnerable they are because they're as much vulnerable as anybody else, but they want to put up that big front. They men, so they don't want to be seen as weak or vulnerable, so they tend to keep to themselves. Some of them had done that all their lives. Some of them, I was saying earlier on that there are some of them who have actually been through so much, and so their lives are built around that particular way of life. Like they just don't think um that you should see them vulnerable. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, I'm here. So pretty much, to me, as far as the foundation of the problem that we're having is we're not understanding the laws in which we communicate, because everybody is saying the right thing, male and female. We're just not communicating the laws. If we could just okay, so like say a feeling, right? A feeling is the body's response to information. So, like, say if you ask a woman, is she hungry? Guess what she's gonna do? Her body is gonna respond to it, and she's gonna answer the question. She's gonna have a feeling in her stomach, may shift to her liver, shift up to her lung. She's gonna answer the question, say she is or she's not, right? And she's gonna say that, but her body, she's talking about the way her body felt to it at that moment. That's a
Mm,
feeling. She's just communicating it with logical language instead of saying, "Well, I felt my liver shift, and then my stomach dropped, and then it went up to my lungs, and then it felt kind of heated, and then it made my
mm,
left side feel heavy." That's actually
mm,
communicating the body. That's actually the language of feeling. But she's not
mm,
communicating like that. She's communicating in the logic by saying, I don't know what I want to eat. Instead of just saying how she felt, if she's communicated the way her body was responding, we will understand it as a feeling, and then we'll be able to interpret that as, you don't want nothing to eat right now. Now, if she asks a man that question, he's going to think about the previous things he's ate. And based off his
mm,
thought, he's going to make a decision for his body without his body into it. It's going to be simply what he thought about eating. He's going to come up with the best idea with no information going to the body whatsoever. It ain't got nothing to do with the body. It's just an idea. That's the difference between communicating a feeling and a thought. And we have to understand that men are communicating their thoughts. The woman is actually communicating the body responding, but she's just not communicating the words, letting us know it's the body. She's
mm,
communicating it in the logic language because men developed the language to try to help understand women, but he created the language in the logical form and still
mm.
miscommunicated the feeling because he's hearing the feeling come to him in the logical language. So he's still interpreting it as a thought instead of an actual feeling.
Cool. The true, true. But again, you've not answered my question as to whether um if the men are communicating with their thoughts, and the women need to listen to the feelings of the men. How does that work? How do we make the men communicate their feelings? I think that's a question that I have in mind, and that's a question I think the women are asking. How
All right,
do men
this is how I
uh,
do it. When
tell
there
me?
is a you have to, all right, you address is a way to address a woman and a way to address a man. Never a woman should never ask a man how does he feel about something because he cannot tell her how he feels. She has to
Okay.
communicate to him what does he think first, and then ask him
Okay.
the same question and ask him how does he feel after he expresses the thought. Then she will have the feeling. That's how you get there.
Mm,
That's how you
mm,
communicate a man's feeling. First, a man cannot express his feeling to first he accurately communicates his thought. He cannot tell you how he
mm,
feels before he expresses what he thinks in order to get to his
mm,
feeling. So women have to
mm,
allow a man to tell her what he thinks and respect his thoughts because that's his thoughts, that's his truth. And then turn around and ask him the same question and ask him how does he feel? And that will be the translation of a thought to
of a
her, which would
thought.
be the feeling language. And then she will hear
Yeah.
how he feels for the first time. That's how you do it.
So, um, how do you get a man who feels he's vulnerable and so doesn't talk about stuff to you? How do you get that man talking?
Well, he's gonna talk for okay. First, he has to be able to understand what type of way, what type of learner the man is. This is the first
Mm,
foundation of any conversation. First, you have to understand what type of is he auditorial, is he visual,
mm-hmm,
is he
mm-hmm,
textile, or is he rhythmic? So first, once you
mm-hmm,
know the way he learns, then you have to present the question to him in that form so he understands. Because he may not just be understanding what it is that you're asking him, because you might be a visual teacher, he may be auditory, and
mm,
you're asking him from a visual standpoint, and he doesn't register that as a question because he learns questions from audio, from sound, and you're presenting him with
mm,
visual too, and God designed for him to hear the truth. So first off, we have to
mm.
be able to respect the way each other learns because we may be truthfully asking the right question, but if you're asking it in a visual formation and he's not a visual interpreter,
Mm.
then he's not even
Mm.
going to understand that you're even asking a question. So his silence may be just because he doesn't even know it was a question being asked.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Mm.
So it's like we really have to go back to basic 101 before we even get to like really the relationship thing. We have to understand how each other learns and the way we teach in order for us to have a simple conversation because the same things that we're doing in relationships with male and female, we're doing this with our children, we're doing this in our families. We're not respecting the way each other learns and the way each other teaches. No one taught us inside of the household how to identify the way such and such learns, and how to identify the way this person gives information that they learn, and how to identify the way this person remembers what they have went through, and how to identify what this person calls their present moment. We're not taught that, so
Mm.
we're just going in thinking that everybody just thinks the way we think, and we know that everybody different, but we don't know how to respect it because when you respect something, you take the time out to learn it.
Exactly. Exactly.
You're saying that
Yes.
men are going to communicate their thoughts, which women take as you're just telling me what you think I want to hear, which is true. He's only communicating the thought because he's going to communicate his past, what he has already been through or experienced. He's
Yeah.
not in the present
Exactly.
moment. The female
Yeah.
is always going to be in the present moment first. It's at this moment because her body is there. She's communicating her body at this moment, but she doesn't know how to. She has not been taught to communicate the actual body, so she's communicating once again in that statement her thought. Do you love me? That's not really what she's
Mm.
trying to say. She's communicating her
Mm.
body, what her body is feeling connected to you. Do you feel
Mm.
connected? Do you feel that feeling right here and that feeling right there? But
Mm.
because she's not
Mm.
taught to communicate her body, it just comes out the
Mm.
logic, the thought of a feeling is, do you love me? That's not really what she's saying though. But because we're
Exactly.
interpreting that,
Exactly. I
she's just
like what you're saying,
communicating.
right?
Right. So if she was to say instead of saying, "Do you love me?"
Mm.
communicate, "Oh, my body feels this. I just feel this, and this tingling, and this electricity, and this thing." A man is going to interpret that as, yeah, we're connecting because he's gonna hear that body language, and when you hear that language of the way it's going through the body, that information hits you, and your body responds to that information, and you be able to become sync with that person and experience what they experience based off the way their body is moving. They can't lie about how their body's feeling, so they're communicating truthfully. And when that truth is hitting you, it's going into your body, and your body is saying, "Well, how would it feel if it was going through this?" And you'll understand what the person is saying, but we're not taught to communicate the feeling. Nobody is. Females are not taught it, and men are not. We're taught to communicate the thought of a feeling, but not actually the feeling language. And that's what's messing us up. When we just haven't been taught it, and no one's out here. I'm about the only person pretty much breaking down. You know what I'm saying? Teaching person. This is what a feeling and a thought really
Mm,
is. Other
mm,
than that, the world is just going to teach you. Everybody has an opinion. An opinion is either what you think or what you feel, and everybody has to express what they think and what they feel. You're just not a feeling, and you're just not a thought. You're
mm,
both.
mm,
And they
mm,
trick us and they call it an opinion, and an opinion is to
mm.
opt out of bringing balance. Oh, that's your
Yeah,
opinion. It's my opinion. All right, so we're opting out. We don't bring no balance. If instead of me saying it's an opinion, I say, okay, that's how you feel. I respect how you feel. What do you think about that feeling? Oh, well, this
exactly.
is what I think about this feeling. Now you communicated both sides, and now I hear the total truth. Now I know how you think, I
Mm.
know how you feel. Now I can understand you instead of me just going off your feeling, but I never got your thought. You gave me your sun, but you never gave me your moon, so we never got out of a day.
Yeah. I have another question for you before I take the bubble. Um, do you know there are times where women, I don't know what you call it, but the times where a woman asks a question, but she actually means 1,001 things. Like she's asking one question, yeah, but she's actually asking 1,001 concealed questions behind that one question. You know, so it becomes a problem in communication because you're asking him one question, but in that question means 1,001 things, and so the man is confused as to exactly what does she want, what's this question aimed at, what's the resulting effect. And I think that explains what we've been talking about since about the thoughts and the feeling. But I think that sometimes men do not communicate because women are asking the wrong questions, or because women um, are asking questions that have different layers, and so the man is kind of confused as to, because he has to rationalize what the woman is asking, and in trying to rationalize what the woman is asking, he's up there thinking about why is she asking this question. Does that happen to you? Let me ask you, does that happen to you when a woman asks you a question and you're thinking, why is she asking this question before you give an answer? Does that happen to you?
Oh yeah, because I already know that is a feeling. The reason why that's gonna happen is because it's a feeling. Is a feeling being there, and I can't see it. It's just something that
So,
hits me. So it's nothing that can be seen. The sound that is being communicated is not really, like I said, I already know we're not taught to communicate the feeling. So I know the sound is not
mm,
capturing a true
mm,
feeling, and the process to it, that person is trying to figure it out. That's why they bring in the question that way, because they don't know the process to why they got there, and they're looking for me to give them the process into what the feeling is based
mm,
off the arrangement of questions so that they can know how they got to that feeling, because they don't even know. I got a book coming out this summer, June 1st. It's called Communication in the Translation, the Holistic Understanding to Relationship Health. And I teach
mm.
how men and women communicate. I teach the laws. Like there's a law to putting a motor in the car. There's a law to coming to work. There's rules and regulations. It's when it comes to communication, we don't think there's laws. We've been taught behavior, mannerisms, but not laws. There are actually laws when it comes to communicating. So
Yeah,
that's what
I just
I'm.
I was trying to I was trying to get you to I don't know if you got the question before I played that, um, whether or
Oh yeah.
not when you think about when you try to figure out why the questions are coming, does that affect the answer that you give to the question?
All right, so for me, it doesn't, because this is what I do. I understand that when they're coming with a feeling, the only answer that they're looking for is another feeling. So when they ask me a question like that, I just simply give them a feeling back. I just simply say, "How do you feel about it?"
But
Because if they're coming with
she's asking you a question.
right, and I can't, and if I tell her what I think is going to be wrong, so the only thing they're gonna, and it doesn't, it just, I know for us as men it doesn't make sense, but for women they really understand this. If a person is coming to you with a feeling, you have to answer them with a feeling. If I answer that question, then I'm gonna give them a thought, because I'm always gonna give a thought before a feeling. So the only way I can do is meet a feeling with a feeling, and that's redirection. Even though it's not actually an answer, redirection is a feeling, and that makes more sense to them than actually telling them what you think.
Okay. So does that mean answering a question with a question? Like he asks you a question, she asks you a
Right.
question, and then you pose that question back to her and say, "What do you think?"
No, never ask a woman what she think. You ask her what does she feel.
No, what she feels. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Like
If you
what
ask her what,
instead of
if you
saying,
ask, yeah, instead of trying to tell her what you think the answer is, because whatever you trying to give her a thought is going to be wrong because she doesn't want a thought, she wants a feeling, and you're going to be thinking of the right thing to say, which you're wrong. So the thought is you
mm,
don't know the answer. The
mm,
feeling is give it back to her. Now you gave her a feeling. She can work with that. That makes way more sense to her than what you was thinking about saying. It doesn't for us. It's different because we're not taught this, so it feels different. It feels
mm-hmm,
foreign, but it actually makes way more sense
mm,
to them because they're talking
mm,
feeling language. We gotta talk each other's
mm.
language.
Okay, so I want to hear I want to hear what the women have to say about this, but I think that makes a lot of sense.
Hey T, 1984 and MZ. Oh my God. You're like a little, not little, you're like a black Gandhi minus the racist. They say alleged he was racist. You are so like your health, you have health information, you have communication information. You're just amazing. And I don't know, you don't sound like you have much age on you. I don't know, but that doesn't mean anything. What I'm saying is you are dropping some serious facts. Oh my God. Thank you. I want to thank the universe for you, for real.
Thank you, thank you,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. That's really good, really good. Yeah, you were saying something before the message. Thank you guys for sending messages. That's really cool. It means you're understanding what he's saying and what we're trying to put across. And I hope that at the end of this conversation that women tend to understand men much more, and men tend to understand women much more, and we're able to communicate much more. But you wanted to say something. You were saying something about reposing the question back to her. Do you think
Yeah.
some women will get offended when they're asking you a very direct question and they really want to find out what you think in quotes, because that's and then pose the question back to her and say, hey, what do you feel? Do you think that some of them would feel?
Nope, they wouldn't. If we think that they'll be offended because we're used to being, it's kind of tied into our ego because we feel like it's part of us kind of always making sure we have the answer. So for us, yeah, we would have that thought, but in actuality, in their realm, in the way that they receive information, that just makes more sense. To me, if you tell them what you think, that's the equivalent of telling them a lie. If you just redirect
True.
it, at least they could deal with that because that's something they could get involved in. If somebody opens up their arm and gives you a hug and you give them the thought of a hug, they're going to feel that's disrespectful. So if a person opens their arms to give a hug, you meet that feeling with a feeling, you hug and embrace back. So you have to give the feeling back. So your thought is not going to work. You have to give a feeling, and redirection is a feeling because she could get involved with redirection, but she can't get involved with your thought. That's what's going to aggravate.
Cool. Yeah, I agree with you. And that when you take that back, then you can be able to listen. I think what that will enable the guy to do is to listen, because I believe that a lot of guys don't listen. So when you push the question back to her and she's able to tell you what she feels, then you can listen to how whatever it is that you're doing actually affects the way that she feels. And then when you meet her at that point of her feelings, then you guys can have a breakthrough. I think that's really cool.
You're not gonna, when she tells you what she feels, you're not gonna understand it. You're not gonna understand it because she's really talking to herself when she says that. What you have to do is allow her to express that feeling, and after she expressed that feeling, you ask her what does she think about that feeling, and then that'll be your way to interpret it, because then she's gonna talk in thought language. Then that's gonna be the translation of that feeling. Because she's trying to express something that is all over the place, comes from so many different areas, tied into so many things when she's expressing the feeling. But when she thinks about it, it isolates it. So you have to allow her to express the feeling of it, and then turn around and ask her, what does she think? Therefore, it's being translated to you.
Okay, my question here is this. Question to you. Are you trying to say that men do not live in the realms of feelings. Like they cannot understand feelings, they can only understand thoughts. That's what you're trying to say now, that men cannot understand feelings, they can only understand thoughts.
No, we can't understand the feeling right now because the women are not communicating the feeling language. They're communicating the feeling in the thought language. So it's confusing. Until women learn how to communicate the feeling, meaning actually what the body goes through, only then will we be able to understand the feeling. But as long as a feeling is being coded as a thought, then it's always going to be confusion. So you just got to let that person feel how they feel and just accept the thought of it. And then when they give you the thought, then you get that thought and you say, bear with me. This is what I think. Blase, blase, blase. This is how I feel. And she's going to understand that.